The sun slowly rose over the quiet village. Soft shades of gold and orange filled the morning sky. Roosters crowed in the distance, and the dusty village roads slowly came to life. People began their day. But inside a small house at the edge of the village, a woman named Grace sat quietly by her window. She watched the children walking to school. Some were laughing, some were running, some carried old backpacks filled with books. Grace smiled gently, but behind that smile was a story very few people knew. A story about a dream. A dream that took 20 long years to come true. 20 years earlier, Grace was just a young girl sitting in a small classroom. The walls were cracked, the wooden desks were old, and the chalkboard had faded from years of use. But to Grace, that classroom was magical, because every day it opened a new world for her. One morning, the teacher asked the class a question. What do you want to become when you grow up? Hands shot into the air. I want to be a driver. I want to be a trader. I want to be a farmer like my father. The classroom filled with excitement. Then Grace slowly raised her hand. She stood up quietly. Her voice was soft but clear. One day, I want to build a school. The classroom suddenly became silent. A school where children can learn for free. Some children giggled. Even the teacher looked surprised because Grace came from a poor family. Building a school seemed impossible, but Grace believed in it with all her heart. 2 years later, everything changed. Grace's father became very sick. Her family struggled just to afford food. School fees became impossible. One evening, her mother sat beside her. Her voice was gentle but heavy with sadness. Grace, you must stop going to school. We need your help. Those words broke her heart. That night, Grace cried quietly in her room. She looked at her school books and wondered if her dream had ended before it even began. But deep inside her heart, something refused to give up. Grace made a promise to herself. Even if she could not go to school anymore, she would never stop learning, and she would never stop believing in her dream. Grace began working at the village market. She carried heavy baskets. She sold vegetables. She helped traders load their goods. The work was exhausting. Every morning she walked before sunrise. Every night she returned home tired. But Grace had a habit that surprised everyone. After dinner, while the rest of the village slept, she lit a small kerosene lamp. Then she opened her old books and she studied. Night after night, year after year. Some people laughed when they saw her reading. Why are you studying? They asked. You do not even go to school anymore. But Grace never argued. She simply smiled and kept reading. Because she knew something many people forget. Dreams do not disappear just because life becomes difficult. Years passed. Grace grew older, but her dream grew stronger. She began making handmade baskets and selling them in the nearby town. Every week she saved a little money, just a few coins at a time. Some weeks she saved almost nothing, but she kept saving. Day by day, year by year. People wondered why she never spent her money. Some thought she was strange, others thought she was foolish, but Grace knew exactly what she was doing. She was building her dream one coin at a time. 10 years passed, then 15. Grace was no longer a young girl. She was now a grown woman. One quiet evening, after a long day of work, she sat outside her house and looked up at the stars. For the first time in many years, she felt tired, very tired. Maybe everyone was right, she whispered. Maybe my dream is too big. Just then, a small girl walked toward her, holding a torn book. "Grace," the girl said softly, "can you help me read this?" Grace smiled. She began helping the girl read the words, slowly, patiently. When the girl finally read the sentence correctly, her face lit up with joy. "Thank you," she shouted before running home. Grace sat quietly, and in that moment, she remembered why she began this journey. Her dream was never about success. It was about giving children the opportunity she almost lost. That night, Grace made another promise. No matter how long it took, she would never give up. 20 years after she first spoke about her dream, something incredible happened. With the money she had saved and a small loan from a community group, Grace finally built something small. It was not a big school. It was not fancy. It was just a simple classroom made of bricks with a small tin roof. But to Grace, it was the most beautiful building in the world because it represented 20 years of patience, 20 years of faith, 20 years of refusing to quit. On the first day the school opened, Grace stood outside the door. Her heart was beating fast. Would anyone come? Then she saw them. One child, then another, then 5, then 10. Soon the classroom was full. Children eager to learn. Some came barefoot, some carried old books, but every one of them had the same thing in their eyes: hope. Grace stood in front of the class and took a deep breath. Then she spoke the words she had waited 20 years to say: "Welcome to your school." Tears filled her eyes because her dream had finally become real. And the lesson is simple. Dreams take time. Sometimes they take years. Sometimes they take decades. But if you keep believing, if you keep walking, and if you refuse to give up, one day you will look back and realize something amazing. The dream that once felt impossible was simply waiting for the right time to come true.